Hi, this is Jeff Berlin, and I'd like to thank everybody for picking up this bass tape. I put together a bunch of exercises I think that you'll find helpful for your improvement as bass players, different things for you to work on. We will get into them as the tape progresses. I think that today we put a lot of emphasis on technique and a lot of emphasis on chops, and this tape ought to demonstrate to you things that you can work on that will improve these aspects of your music. We'll be doing different scalular things. We'll be discussing concepts that will certainly lend itself to improvement as a bass player. So thanks for being here. I'd like to show you the type of equipment that I'm into. I've been playing these amplifiers for 5-6 years now. I've been using Yamaha equipment, and I stand by Yamaha all the way. For me, it has some of the best bass sounds that I've used. On the top, I'm using 2 of the Yamaha preamps. And on the bottom, I'm using 3 Yamaha E1010 analog delays. I don't always have them hooked up together, but these analogs seem to add a bit of warmth to my overall bass sound. I got them when I was working with Alan Holdsworth, and Yamaha supplied them and fixed them to do a certain function that they don't distort when I use them in the loop. Also, Yamaha power amps, which for me are the quietest, cleanest power amps. And on the bottom, the 215s. These 2 middle 12s are EV12s, but I enjoy the overall sound of these 4 speakers. I just want to add on one little point. In truth, there isn't any particular piece of equipment over anything else that might be more superior. I'm saying this because it's up to you as musicians to go out and try the different pieces of equipment that are available and make your choices, see what it is that you like sound-wise, durability-wise, and by trying different pieces of equipment, you will finally come upon something, that makes sense to you and will fit your musical needs. So for me, it is this. I recommend that as young players, try different things. I think you'll find that it'll really be helpful. Bass-wise, I'd like to start with this instrument here, which was made by a guitar maker in St. Petersburg, Florida, named John Buscarino, who is the president of Nova Guitars. This bass is an incredible little instrument. I just got it, and I plan to use it for different records, but for some of the things I've been playing on it, I think it's going to be a new addition to my bass gigs, the records, the things that I do. I think this is going to be a new addition, something I'm going to use a lot. Simply badass EMGs, a typical form, obviously, for the instrument, but it's a handsome-looking instrument, and I think it's light. I like light basses, and I think that this is going to be something new. But the real bass I'd really like to show you is this one, because this is the bass that I've used on about 45, 50 albums. This is the bass that, this is my bass. I mean, I love this instrument. It's been with me for a long time. I've done a lot of different work on it. It's sort of a bum. It's a mutt. It's a put-together bass, but it's put together the way that I like it. It's an old precision body, a 64. And the old jazz neck that I had on, it was a P-bass body, but it was a jazz neck that had gotten worn out. I had worn out the frets, and had Michael Tobias from Tobias Basses make me another copy, and it is utterly perfect. And it's as well as a bass manufacturer for Tobias Basses. He makes the best 5-string and 6-string basses anywhere, period. He also was an excellent parts manufacturer, and for me, he has made this neck. This pickup, it's an interesting pickup. It's by Bartolini. Bill Bartolini made this for me after the one he had made several years ago, Gathered Distortion, because I played so much on the pickup that the pickup magnets collected all the static, and every time I touched the string, it was like crackle. So the pickup was retired, and in 1984, Bill looked in his drawer after the company had developed. He looked in his drawer and found the original blueprint that he made for me, the original pickup in 1975. So that is that pickup. This one is shut off. It's an old high A, also made by Bill. But Ronnie Montrose, the guitar player with Montrose, who also produced Champion, my first record, he hot-rodded this bass by putting volume here, tone here for this pickup, and this pickup is shut off, and well, I'll hook it up one day, but not tonight. So I just wanted to show you that this is off, this one's on. And the Badass Bass Bridge, which is made by Glenn Kwan, the Badass Bass Company, for me, that is the bridge of all time. If there was a best product, it has to be this bridge. And the Badass Bass 2 is obviously a fantastic addition to a bass. A lot of standard bridges usually don't do the job that the Badass does, and a lot of replacement bridges that are copies of the Badass, as far as I'm concerned, do not do the same job. So for me, it's this bridge, this pickup, and finally Carl Thompson bass strings, Big fan of Carl Thompson bass strings, folks. They're made in New York. Not many, it's not a big company. Not a whole lot of people know about him, but those that do, Stanley Clarke is one of them, and we are big fans of Carl Thompson bass strings. Again, it's one of those products that I consider the best. I'm a terrific fan of his strings. So here it is. This is my bass, the type of guitar that I have. We're going to go into some stuff in a minute. Obviously, you see my Roddy Piper sticker. Roddy Piper is the flamboyant.
I've always been a big fan of you, Mr. Berlin. Irving Berlin, I've always loved you. You're younger than I thought, Irving. You are Irving Berlin, aren't you?
Jeff Berlin, bass player.
Jeff Berlin.
Jeff. Yeah, I'm a bass
Who the hell are you?
bass player. I play bass. I write a column for Guitar
Well,
Player.
how come you got my guitar?
What do you mean your guitar?
That's my name, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's on that guitar, isn't it?
Yes,
That
it
makes
is.
that my guitar, doesn't it?
Well, no. In fact, it's just your name.
How come you out here swearing to these people all the time, calling everybody badass? Huh? Do you know, I know about bass guitars. You want to know? Ask me a question. You want to know what I know about bass guitars? You want to know?
Yeah.
That bass guitar there was made by John. Aha! I knew that all by myself. Did you know that? I can play the bass guitar as well as any. I'm a natural, just about everything. Like on the good ship, lollipop. I can do almost anything. I could play the bass guitar. Do you dress yourself?
This is my jacket.
You put that all together
for me,
yourself.
yeah.
Cute kid. Where do you get your haircut?
It's-
Listen, I could. This is John. Is John around?
He's Florida. He's not.
He's in Florida.
Florida.
Okay, John. I could learn anything. I could play the. You're supposed to be one of the world's greatest bass guitar players. Is that right?
People are nice enough to say this. You know.
Dad, the dog, the cat. I could play the guitar as well as you. How long is this video?
This is about an hour video.
About an hour. Can
An hour.
you stay awake that long? An hour. I'm going to come back here. You show me, let me see. You show me 3 licks on this guitar, and I'll come back here, and you'll be paying, excuse me, that's okay. That's my spit. It's precious.
Precious.
You'll be paying me to play with your band. You show me 3 simple licks on this sucker, man.
Okay.
This baby here.
All righty. Yeah, well,
go.
you're almost
This is
on the right
John's.
end. This is John's made this.
John, I knew that. I told you that.
He did.
Yeah. Is
Well,
that a
I'll-
mustache or is that hair coming out of your nose there?
No, this is
okay.
on it.
Go
Here.
ahead, yes. Show me 3 simple.
Okay, I got 3 licks for
Show me
you
3 hard ones.
to practice. Okay, I got a hard one. Here's we go. Here's the first one I'd like you to do. This is something I did in a record, and it's called 5G. Goes like so. Okay?
All right, no problem.
Right,
I'll
that's
play it-
for the
I got-
thumb.
I got
That's
that
something
one.
with the
I got
thumb.
it. Yeah, well, I knew that with the thumb.
That's
John
right.
told me that.
John told you.
Yeah, I knew
Okay.
that. I got that part down. No
Okay.
problem. Okay, show me something hard.
Okay, here's something hard I'd like you to check in, okay?
Yeah,
This thing is a two-handed
Excuse me,
technique.
you're the one that needs to check it.
Oh, okay, I
go
have
ahead.
to.
Yes,
'cause
yes.
Okay. Well, here's something for you. This is a two-handed technique thing. Off of, I did a record called Champion. Champion, and it's a
You don't
two-handed.
have 3 hands, huh?
No,
You'd really be a happy boy by yourself, wouldn't you?
I
Go
would
ahead, yeah.
indeed. This is a two-handed technique thing. I think this is something you can get. I know you can get this. This is a piece called Mother Load. It goes
Mother Load.
Mother Load.
Mother Load. I'm hip with everybody. Heap of Uriah. I know real Atlanta rhythm sections. I know more.
Okay, and here's Mother Load, and this is something you might want to try.
Okay, do I gotta hold my face stupid like that too when I play?
It helps, but it's
It
not
doesn't?
necessary.
Okay. I got. Let me just try that one there. One more. Would you just play the ending of that again, please?
What,
Just
the last one?
Just the last lick of that. No, it's the lick. John taught me. Yeah,
Okay,
that's it. There.
like so.
again, with one more time.
One more time.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. There, I
Like
got that.
so.
Okay. And show
Okay.
me one more. Just
Okay.
One. That's all.
This is all. This is one
One.
more thing I'm going to show you,
You only
okay?
get one chance.
Okay. and
Some of it gets 2 chances. Yes. Hot.
Okay.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, here's something called Joe Frazier.
Who?
Joe Frazier.
Oh, of course, Smoking Joe.
Yeah.
Yes, he's in the Betty Ford Center now. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, man, yes.
This is Joe Frazier,
Yes.
piece that you might enjoy. It's like a line that goes like so. Okay,
Okay,
it goes like this. 3.
Okay, go with that.
Okay. Here's my Joe Frazier thing. That's Joe Frazier.
That's Joe Frazier.
That's the line from Joe Frazier.
I can play that easy.
Can you play this?
Want to see me now?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. John made this guitar.
He made this.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go give a try and practice a little bit. I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to take that guitar and do boop, you out of a job, okay?
Okay.
Okay, and we want to do something about the trivia, and we'll see you later. And you folks, you watch real close, because next thing you'll be seeing is me.
Well, I don't know what to say, except we have a student who will be learning these lines in just a little bit, so stick around and see what Roddy can do with these lines. If you would like to learn them too, I'm going to do them again for you, and I'm going to do them slowly. So first, let's do some tuning in case you would like to play along with me. So I'm first going to give you an open G for you to tune to. Here's your G. Now that you have that G string in tune, I shouldn't have to play any of the other strings. What you ought to do is tune your strings via the harmonics. I'd like you to tune on the 7th fret on the G string and the 5th fret on the D string. You'll listen for waves. You hear the out of tune in the waves? And tune till the waves go away. When the waves are gone, you're in tune. And you do the same for the 7th fret on the D and the 5th fret on the A. Again, tuned for the waves to go away. When the waves are gone, you should be pretty well in tune with each other. And finally, the 7th fret on the A string and the 5th fret on the E string. And the same principle, tune till the waves are gone. Your harmonics may indicate that the strings are in tune, but you may actually hear that you're not. And the problem might be the fact that you are not intonated, which is that the harmonic of the string is not equal with the pressed note of the string. And we're talking about the octave note of each string. The harmonic and the pressed note should be identical. And if they're not, you ought to get a stroke tuner, and you'll have to find a way to lengthen or shorten the string in order to make sure that the harmonic and the pressed note are the same. This is a little detail that will finally put the bass absolutely perfectly in tune. And any guitar store will have a strobe tuner, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you out with this. Let's begin with the first bass figure that I showed Roddy, which is the bass line from 5G off of the Bruford album, One of a Kind. It's a little thumb-popping thing that I did several years ago on that record that has remained with me. And I'd like to show you how I did it. These days are incredible thumb bass players, and I'm sort of a novice at it, but 5G had a little percolating effect to it. So to demonstrate this particular bass line, I began by using left-right slapping, which is the thumb and the left hand, which I'm sure you can see is pretty basic stuff. I notice a drummer plays left-right in syncopated fashion with the stick, so I just began to alternate left-right fashion. And the thing is that as a riff, what I just played is easily played by you if you just simply experiment with left and right slapping motion on your bass. So 5G in this context began with a right-left slap. Right, left, muted with the left hand, and pulled with the index finger of the right hand. And then close that with left, right. So altogether, those 5 beats were right, left, pull, left, right, thumb. And that's how the 5 notes of that particular passage plus the remaining came into effect. And then I proceeded on by tapping again with the right hand for the lower E string. And repeated. And then I did a triplet. Some people sort of I personally on the record went, which is I played 1, 2, slapped, and then downbeated with my thumb. And putting all that mishmash together, the riff came out to more or less this type of rhythm. Slap, slap, and then 3 notes like so. Next riff I want to do for you is something I did off a Champion, which is Mother Load. Mother Load is a two-handed technique. Right now, I guess our champion at this is Billy Sheehan, who is the great exponent of the two-handed technique. I came upon this particular idea because I wanted to have as much of an orchestral effect as I could. So literally, it's compositional. I had in the left hand an E chord with a 9. And I knew that if I had tapped certain frets that are also related to the key of E, I should have Now I knew that the notes here all relate to the key of E in some fashion. So what I found is with this E sound and tapping E here and pulling off, I have 2 different sounds that relate to the key of E in one fast motion. And by using the thumb, I strike that as the 3rd beat. So I'm pulling off with the index finger, but in fact what I'm doing is I'm spelling out an E sound with my right hand and an E sound with my left hand. So there is the, I guess, the harmonic beauty of that. And continuing, I knew that I can go down to D and still use these notes. Now this piece has done a little bit of updating, so I'm including other sounds in it, but the principle again is the same. An E sound with the left hand and an E sound with the right. In this instance I went down to D with the left hand, and these notes which still sounded good in E still sound good in D. So it shows you what? It shows you that it is not necessarily a bass thing that I came up with. I came up with a harmonic concept that happens to work on bass, and that's the thing that I'm proud of most about it. Not that I came up with a bass, you know, fancy schmancy, great bass thing. I came up with a musical thing, and that's what, another thing I'd like you to work on. Play triads with the left hand, and then go on and try to experiment two-handed ideas and see how they work out. And the next part, I work that out harmonically. Have C sharp minor with a 9, and play the notes that relate to C sharp minor. And notes that relate to each of these chords. D6, 9, E flat diminished. And that's how I came upon that, and that's something I'd like you to do as a compositional exercise to work out things on your bass. The third thing I'd like to show you is Joe Frazier, which is sort of an anthem of mine. I'm very proud of that tune, and people have been very kind to request it over the years. Joe was obviously named after the great heavyweight fighter who's been a big fan. I've been a big fan of his. Might have been a big fan of mine, I don't know. But I've always followed Joe, and I wanted to write something interesting and sort of to honor him. Joe is an example of the linear aspect of bass playing. Joe is a harmonic thing that I had written out. Again, it could be something a horn player might have played. It isn't actually a bass piece. I just applied it to bass. And Joe slowly goes. Now, to my way of looking at that, for the time it took me to come up with a line that I felt was harmonically interesting, how can I tell you about that except that it's the harmony that preceded the actual bass line, which means what? Again, it emphasizes that music, the melodies, the scales that you play, the harmony that you learn, that is the inventor, the mother of invention, as it were, for the ideas you have as a musician. It just does not matter that you're a bass player, rather that what kind of music will you play on the bass. So with the two-handed thing, I emphasize is one particular kind of music, and Joe, as a melodic line, is another kind. So here are three different things that I'm proud of, and I'm very happy that people recognize who listen to the stuff that I'm doing. I want to thank them. And as an idea for you, please develop your melodic concepts, your harmonic concepts, by the things that you listen and things you practice. And as we proceed into this tape, I'm going to show you some of those things to work on.
Jeff, let me ask you something. Now, see, as a novice bass player, I hear you play those things, or I hear other people play, and I hear these wonderful licks that are being done.
These lines.
And I'm not really interested in playing scales and doing all that stuff. I just want to play the great chops.
The chops.
Right. So what do you say to someone like me? I know you've heard this 1,000 times, but what is it that you can say to me to make me want to get past of just wanting to play the chops?
Yeah, I understand it. There's nothing more exciting, I think, as a musician who will be able to execute those fast lines and those beautifully executed figures on the neck.
Burning fingers, we call it.
Burning fingers, correct. And the lure of the burning fingers is it's almost acrobatic to be able to play these beautiful executed things at top speeds. But the catch of that is that today we are a very chops-oriented music community. Most of the famous musicians, we laud them as our great technicians and stuff, but the problem is that the younger musicians who are developing their craft are lured into a chops-oriented mode before their time. And
So in other words, they have to crawl before they can walk, sort of thing.
they would have to crawl before they can walk, as I crawled, as any of the famous musicians, you know, the great players who have taken their time that we have never witnessed. We've never witnessed the great musicians in their homes and in the clubs as anonymous people struggling for years.
So you're saying that the chops come out of the practice and of all the other elements, the total organic approach to the music, it really comes out of that.
Yes, it does.
Well, here again, for me being a novice,
Right.
could you show me, I don't know, something like maybe a scale or something in which the chop evolves from that? Can you show
Sure,
me something like
sure.
that? I mean,
Absolutely.
and us too. I'm speaking for all of us.
Okay. Yeah, I have something, in fact, that I think would fit the bill in this. Now, we are very young musicians, and myself, you know, in any of the things that I do, scales are part of our vocabulary in the music and the things, the melodic instruments. So normally we would know like things like the major scale.
Okay.
And most people who would study these scales would study them in this fashion, up and down the neck, as a regular scale. Like here I'm playing a G scale, which everybody knows. But the interesting thing is that you can take these simple 8 notes, the Ionian mode, the first scale of the modes,
Right.
the modal system, and if you use them in alternate ways, that is like instead of just simply playing them up and down the neck, which is in fact a fairly redundant thing, because I think that this is a scale, and this is a scale that can be learned rather quickly, and the merits of it rather quickly. But what they haven't done is taken this scale and dissected it in order to make the scale harmonically more interesting, and taking your time to learn it, and thus building the quality of your notes and your
Could you
chops.
show me that?
Sure, sure. Like if I take a G scale, I might play it in seconds. That is second intervals. So second intervals is 1. Now that's in seconds. Now that sounds a bit simple, and it is, but we're only dealing with major. Now we could do it in thirds and go up the neck.
Sounds almost like a Bach piece.
It has that flavor.
Yeah.
Bach was very much into...
You know that.
which is very
So-
scalular. And in this regard, what I'm showing you here, Ronnie, is that you can play these scales in other ways that also opens up the harmony aspect of the approach of the scale. You don't necessarily have to solo, which is very up and down, although that may be available.
Right.
So now I've shown you this scale as an example, G scale, in seconds and thirds. You can also do it in fourths, remembering that the 7th note, which is the major 7, so we have to include that in the scale. So we go, which is a 4th over G, C, A, D, B, tritone, because in fact we're playing the fourth interval, and the fourth up happens to be the major 7. And then down. As an example.
And we novices can play that real slow, can't we?
Shall I do it slow? Okay.
I mean, we don't have to do it that fast at
No.
first, do we?
No.
Can, yeah. Would you show it slow?
I will indeed. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the biggest operative word for any young musician is practice slowly. In fact, thank you for reminding me of that, because the more information you feed to the brain, the more that your brain has in reserve, that's the information that will come out in your hands when you're playing your concerts or playing your practice sessions. Now, again,
That's harder for you to play slow, too, isn't it?
it's harder to do that and talk. I cannot talk and play scales at the same time. So.
That happens to me, too, although I can't play scales at the same time.
And if you practice these scales, because I know you're a guitar player,
Yeah.
these things are, I mean, I'm doing it a demonstration bass-wise, but these things are applicable to guitar and to any instrument, because it is not the instrument that we're referring to, it's the scale played on the instrument.
Right.
And that, again, is another operative, that it is not so much bass chops we're talking about, it is music applied to bass.
Right, and so the key word that for me as a novice is that the easiest thing to do musically is to speed up. I mean, is to learn to play whatever it is, the chops, the scales, whatever, and play them at a speed that I can play them accurately at.
Correct.
And then I can, eventually, as I get more and more command of that, I can speed up.
Yes.
Is that a
And
fair-
it will speed up naturally.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times they emphasize, let's play this, now I'm going to force myself to play faster. You know, for God knows what reason, to build up chops, I hear, to build up tolerance, technique. And it's the biggest lie there ever was in music, and not many people know that. The slower you practice, and I'll show the scale in other versions in a second, but the slower you practice, the more you retain the information. You cannot be thrust into a foreign nation and expect to speak that language rapidly and suddenly without taking the time to hear it, digesting it, and doing it and practicing it slowly, as an
Right.
example. I
Great.
think you can play that. So we did that thing in fourths, now we do it in fifths. Again, this is just the old regular Ionian scale. There's that tritone again.
So all the time you're doing this, you're getting to know your fretboard as well, and you're learning your finger position. You're doing all the right things that eventually, to get back to the initial question, are what the chops are made of.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Yes, you are, sir. And this is exactly what chops comes from. So, as an example, now, you know, for the people viewing this tape, I would like you to practice these scales, but there's other things you can do with these scales. We've emphasized major. I'm going to present some other scales to be used in this fashion, and you'll see there's a mountain of information to be learned. You can take these scales and do them in the minors, do them in the diminished, do them in the augmented. I mean, I'll emphasize that in a second. Right now, I just want to finish up and do this scale now in sixths. And you have to think about how all these notes are to be laid on the neck. That means you are playing bass intelligently and learning the information. Okay, and you can go down the same way. You go down in sixths. And that's pretty.
Yeah.
Now so far we've done the scale like in intervals. Now we have the last one is major sevenths. Or sevenths, I should say, just sevenths. Okay, and it can keep going up. You can go up to the top of your neck. I meant that. Okay, so, and then
Oh, yeah?
yeah, that's right. Do I make mistakes? No. So, and then you proceed down, the same thing. Then you go down in sevenths. Now you can start on so. And you notice notice I'm doing all kinds of different fingerings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, see, I like that because that's you're learning your fretboard, and you use a two-finger technique on the right hand, don't you?
I emphasize two fingers because it's natural for me to.
Yeah.
Other like Billy Sheehan, David Lee Roth, bass player, will use three. Jack Bruce, the bassist for Cream, who's my mentor, this is the guy I followed, uses mostly one.
Yeah.
I happen to be happy with two, and I find that I would rather not practice music with fingerings laid out on it. And the
Right.
reason I don't want to is because I don't wish to have someone emphasize to me what they decided fingerings are comfortable for me.
Right.
I would much rather see the notes and say, these are the notes on the page. How am I going to play these notes to make the most sense to me so that I'm the one that has the liquid approach up and down the neck, where I can play my scales and my lines and the solos that come to me that I've created almost
Right.
from my desire to find my own fingerings.
But in many ways, for us novices, it's sometimes helpful to have somebody else do that just to give us some signposts of where to go to. See, eventually, when you know the instrument as well as you do, yeah, then you want that freedom to do that. But for some of us, we like
It's
we
hard.
like having a suggestion that, well, you could use this finger here. It would be helpful.
It would be helpful to do things like that if you had these exercises that are all laid out.
Right.
Here's the information. I've written this etude. This is the best way to finger it.
Right.
They do it in classical music. I was a violinist, and I noticed that there. But for the sake of the scales, I mean, there are 4, 5, 6 different approaches. And to take the time to tell, the folks 4 or 5 different ways to play a scale in intervals is a lot of time-consuming work. And the truth is most people, if they take the time and know the notes, and I mean, go as slow as 1, 2, I mean, as slow, and figuring out what's the best fingering for them as they become familiar with these notes. I mean, it's a promise. I'll take you to dinner if I'm wrong, but
Right.
this is how you'll eventually see that you will get a liquid approach to the instrument because it's all exercises. It
Right.
isn't-
Okay. So now you've basically laid the foundation for us for what what eventually now you're going to play for us for real now, right? Okay. I mean, that's what we're all here for, right? We're here to see Jeff and hear him play for real.
I was recently reminded by somebody about a piece of videotape of a concert that I did with Jaco Pastorius back in 1985, and found out it was over at the Musicians Institute archives. They have a bunch of videos there, and got permission to show it from the Jaco's estate, from his brothers, and from Pat Hicks at Musicians Institute. And I thought you might be interested to see some of this just because of the uniqueness of a moment where I happened to have the good fortune of playing with the late Jaco. I'd like to remind you that the quality of the tape might be a little suspect, but if you can go past that, you might find some interesting duo bass happening there. So, without further ado, here is the duo between Jaco and myself. Soloing has become such an alluring thing for bass players in the 80s. I know that it's a very exciting thing to be able to whip up and down the neck in a melodic fashion. So I have an exercise I think that'll be real helpful to you. Part of the problem with a lot of bass players these days is that when they solo, they're very root-oriented players. Obviously, it's the nature of our instrument. We play the root. When they go into the solo mode, it's hard to switch out of that root concept. So as an example, if I played a B-flat blues, and as a soloist, I might get a melody going in the first B-flat bar. Going into the next several bars, I'll always hit the root as so. It goes like B-flat, root, 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 et cetera, et cetera. You can see that I made the point in such a way, but I've witnessed this a lot from bass players who want to extend their melodies and not be so root-oriented. So here's what I think might help out in this regard. If we keep to our B-flat blues, in your booklet you'll see this B-flat blues written out. Most of these changes are dominant. I'd like to regard, let's call most of these changes Lydian flat sevens, which means is that the 11th note or the 4th note is raised up a half step. So the scale would be B flat, C, D, E, F, G, A flat, and B flat. And that same principle will apply as a Lydian flat 7 in all the dominants of the scale. So if I happen to play a scale, if I happen to play the scales as a solo medium in the blues, I'll start out by playing B flat, 8 notes in the bar, and end up on the B flat, which is the 8th note. The next change, as you can refer to your book, is E flat 7. So instead of going to the root, let's keep going up the neck to the next available note in E flat 7, which happens to be from the B flat, happens to be the C. And then you'll play 8 notes from the C, but using only the notes in the Lydian flat 7 scale. So you'll have C, D flat, E flat, F, G, A, which is the Lydian, B flat, and C. The next chord change is B flat 7, and we'll keep our principle going by ascending even higher because these notes are available. We have B flat 7. The last note we played is C, so we go up to the D. If you can see, E, which is the Lydian, down, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we have E7. We proceed downward again in a half-step motion to E, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we proceed down again. We'll use this bar as our last example in this because I think you can follow the point. We go to E flat 7 and start on E flat, 2, 3, 4, which is Lydian. And now we're down to the F. We have to go back again because we have no more space to go down. So what we've done in this instance is start on the root of the chord and through every change made a proper step into the scale of the moment without going to the root of the chord. We ascended all the way to the top of the neck and we ascended all the way to the bottom of the neck. And if we play the whole blues in this fashion, with the scales that are written in the book, I think the E diminished scale in this version is also going to be in your book. I'd like to play this blues along with Ron Reinhardt and demonstrate for you how it would sound to play the scales straight up the neck, straight down the neck, without always going to the root of the chord. So we'll play this for you right now. kind of approach obviously makes the lines a lot more lyrical and a lot more connected. I think an uninterrupted lyrical approach up and down the neck in a very straight-ahead scale fashion is very desirable. The neat thing about this exercise is that you don't have to always start on the root of the scale. You can start this whole episode that we had just played. In this example, I did start on the root of the blues, the B flat. You can start this on the C, which is part of the scale, or the D, or the E, etc. Well, any of the notes that are in the scale of the moment of the chord. That's the first chord of the tune. I've always felt that it really never mattered what instrument a musician played as long as the music in him came out. And in order for a musician to become adept at soloing, you should probably pay attention to the great soloists in music. And those great soloists are mostly non-bass players. So in order to transcribe the solos of a Cannonball Adderley, a saxophone player, or a Bill Evans, a pianist, you should buy these records and pay attention to the solos of these tunes. And if you have a hard time finding these records, find a good jazz pianist in your town or somebody who knows where to locate these albums and pay attention to them because they are loaded with melodic fact, the fact that bass players generally do not have on their instrument. So in order to give you an introduction to transcription, in order for you to write out a solo, or at least learn by your ear a solo that is not a bass solo, I'd like to do a blues now with Ron. We're going to play a blues for 2 choruses. Ron will solo, and this is a solo that you will hopefully be able to transcribe onto your basses and learn to play in this fashion. So we're going to do a blues for you right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. As per example, Ron and I playing together here a simple blues, I would recommend that you listen to Ron's solo and try to find the lines that he did and play it on bass if you don't happen to write music. And if you do, why don't you write it out? One good way to do this, believe it or not, is to take a cassette machine, stick it up by your TV, and tape his solo. And what you'll do is you'll hit the pause button as the tape goes by in order for you to hear certain select groups and notes. That's how I'd done a lot of my transcription. With the tapes of the horn players and the pianists that I transcribed. By doing so, you can hear little bits of the music at a time, and you write it out, and then you play it. And this way, you become open to far more tonal possibilities, I think, than only listening to bass players for melodic inspiration. So good luck with your transcriptions. I'd like to thank everybody for being here with us today, and I'd like to introduce to you the musicians who played with me today on our tape. First on guitar is Chick Corea's guitar player. This is Frank Gambale. I'd like to thank Frank for being here today playing. On drums is the #1 studio drummer here in Los Angeles. This is Vinny Colaiuta, and Vinny was nice enough to come down, play with us, and I appreciate it. I'd like to introduce on keyboards from Florida, my good friend Ron Reinhardt, who was very nice enough to come down and play, and we hope that you all had...
Wait a second. I told you 1 hour. I'm going to clean you back. I'm going to make you a fortune here there, good looking, almost. I'm going to make, first thing you need to do is you need to get yourself cool. You gotta put that, all you need is dingle balls on that son of a gun, and you've got yourself a guitar. And R2-D2 over there, yeah, hello, whoa, ha-ha. Haha, there you are. And you behind the drums, what was your name again, that last name? Was your mom playing a joke on you? Can you play anything you want to play? What do you want to play? Whoa,
oh, we know.
Yeah, anything? Can you guys do anything? Some up-tempo. Let's go. And a one, 2, 3, 4. That was good, but if you guys could just pick it up a little bit, would you mind just pick it up a little bit? I'm used to playing rapid, Roddy. Made that up myself. Here we go, let's do the It's a truck. Did you like that?
No.
How about the keyboards?
Don't go near him, please.
It's a little tougher than I expected.
A little bit.
Sorry about that. Make you a fortune. Well, maybe you can have this. You might be the greatest bass guitar player in the world. I'm still second.
Oh, yeah, I thought.
I'm going to go home and beat myself with my canary.
Thank you very much, folks, and good night.